Um, Still in practice session. It shows, wait 1 second, I'm doing this from the other side. It shows in practice session. Yeah, it started.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, guys. Good evening, Natalie. Good evening, Coach Dina and Abhijit. And also, I think everyone has settled in. Thank you so much for joining to our session. This is the fundamental of DEI. This is the third part of fundamental of DEI. And welcome to our session. Thank you so much for thank you so much for taking out your time to join in this session. And today, my name is X and Sarupam. I am a visually impaired person, and for our session, we will need some support from others. And Natalie, could you take the session for a moment?
Sure, Action. And thank you for setting the context and introducing the webinar topic today. This is the third part of the series, Fundamentals of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And today we're going to have a conversation about champions of change. And I'm very, very grateful and excited to have real champions of change here with us today. We have Ekosh, Dina, and Abhijit from Voice. Voice is today a global multifunctional organization. It's a center of excellence for intelligent solutions. It's focused on adding value and delivering business outcomes for its customers. They were amongst India's top workplaces in DEI and also in the top 10 for best workplaces for women. We know, and today we'll hear about Voice being a proud equal opportunity employer. It's known for celebrating diversity, celebrating differences, and welcoming diverse people and insights into the organization. I think inclusion is a very core value to Voice, and we'll hear how they've been able to enable that by creating co-owners of inclusion in the journey. And we have here individuals who have been part of beginning this journey as well as sustaining this journey. First, I would like to introduce Ekosh. Ekosh is the head of governance, lean portfolio management, and transformation at Intelligent Operations, which is the key transformation engine in Voice. His responsibilities aligning strategy to execution, ensuring Voice IO delivers the right solutions and services to achieve the Voice mission and business objectives. His experience in transformation started in management consulting at KPMG, then continued in the shared services industry at AIG Insurance, followed by British Telecom, and then finally Vodafone in the telecommunications sector. Ekosh has also recently taken on the position of chair of the Voice LGBT+ and Allies Employee Network. Welcome, Ekosh. How are you feeling being here today?
Thank you, Natalie, for the introduction. Good evening, everybody. I'm very glad to be here and looking forward to this panel conversation with all of you.
Yeah, we also have with us Dina. I think that my first conversation with Dina was also very inspiring. Dina is leading the digital transformation in Voice and has held several roles in Voice and managed different functions during her career of 24 years. She's a certified agile professional and has done diploma in digital business. Along with that, she's network chair leader for Women in Voice, where she works with other women networks across Vodafone and leads various women engagement initiatives. Dina is also a proud mother of 2 kids and resides in Cairo. So happy to have you here, Dina.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you for the invitation and give me the opportunity to share one of many great success stories in Voice that made it a great place to work. Thank you. Looking forward.
Thank you for being here. And I also have with me Abhijit. Abhijit is a fellow resident of Pune, like me. Abhijit is a meticulous HR lead with close to 10 years industry experience across employee experience, HR business partnering, and HR compliance. He manages employee listening and culture change at Voice. He's part of the employee experience team, which works to build a great place to work for all at Voice by living up to the spirit and purpose and consistently improving ways of working, policies, and providing support at moments that matter. And that's a lovely phrase to have, Abhijit. along the employee's journey. His experience is spread across IT and ITES organizations such as TCS, Infosys, Wipro, and Voice. So very exciting set here. Abhijit, how are you feeling?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for the amazing introduction, Maithili.
Yeah, and it's a great panel to have here because all of you are individuals who've actually lived the experience of transforming or being part of a journey that enables transformation. And I think the first piece that I really wanted to bring forward is a more zoom out lens. And I think I'll go to Abhijit with the first question, since he also champions culture transformations. Saying a little bit, Abhijit, about the culture at Voice and how its key principles have driven employees to become co-owners of change. Because usually we see culture and change residing with HR, L&D as stakeholders, or that's the perception. But how has Voice enabled several associates to become co-owners of change?
Thank you, Maithili, for that question. So a bit of background here, and then I'll delve into the details. So at Voice, our beliefs are trust, drive, curiosity, and belongingness. Our behaviors comprise earning customer loyalty, creating the future, experimenting and learning fast, and getting it done together. A culture is defined by our spirit, which is actually a combination of these two things. And a culture forged with these beliefs and behaviors is our primary enabler for change. It enables us to maximize our productivity, happiness for our employees, and inclusion as well. It has created a healthy environment where contributing is defined as success. It elevates those who elevate others. This ensures that all employees, all of us, become the co-owners of this culture. Employee listening through surveys, sharing of feedback, receive action on feedback is also a critical component of culture at Voice. So, discussion with leaders on the feedback, action planning helps us create the culture at organization level. However, people manage the conversations with their teams, and action on spirit inculcates the belief that each one of our employees is the ownership of this cultural transformation. There are several examples. One of them being, for example, we have our internal employee rewards, which are aligned to our spirit behaviors, which basically ensures that, appropriate incentive for employees to exhibit these behaviors and become ambassadors for cultural change. We also have dedicated spirit champion community from each business line. These champions pave the way to embed spirit in the subconsciousness of our employees. These are some of the few examples I gave where each one of us has made the owner of the culture and not just the leadership as a culture owner.
Thanks, Abhijit. I think what I also hear you say is that there is a clear bias for action at different levels, and that gets demonstrated by very key actionables that leaders, managers, and all associates also bring in. And that itself is the culture of being involved. Akosh, Dina, anything to respond to this, since you've also had experience of this culture at Voice?
I think what I love about Voice and Vodafone in general is really this very inclusive culture. I've been with this company for 6 years, and I always felt that it was much more open than any other companies I worked for before. So also, I think probably it will come up later on when we are talk about it, but our senior leadership, our executive leadership is very committed to diversity topics, and they are doing their best to increase and make the environment much better. And actually, this is something I liked from day one in 2016, August 22nd, when I stepped in the doors of the company at first. And I think it has been consistent ever since. So it's not like dropping. The culture is continuously evolving and becoming more inclusive, as I can see. So I'm very happy about it. And from that perspective, very proud also to work for Vodafone and Voice, regardless of which location we are in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even in the best workplaces, we've always seen a very authentic leadership commitment that really is a very strong enabler in mobilizing and sustaining the journey. Dina?
Yeah, I agree with Akash on the statement, and especially for me, because I have been with Voice for a long time now, and I can tell you if Voice evolved a lot. And now it is really, I'm really proud to the stage that we reached to when it comes to culture in specific, because I can see from the leadership, I can see from the HR, and also a lot of people, they are really walking the talk when it comes to the diversity and inclusion. They are really taking it seriously. A lot of discussions, we know that if it happened, there will be zero tolerance on it. So it gives this kind of psychological safety to the employees. So I believe seeing Voice evolving into this level of embodying the culture change is something that we're all proud of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is the toughest part, is to internalize the values and
Yeah.
them irrespective of the situation, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much for opening that conversation with such positive sentiments. Dina, I think I'm going to come to you because your role and your experience really is very, very exciting. And I think that's also culturally the journey that a lot of organizations are in today when we look at gender and within gender women. So as chair of the Women in Voice Network, a little about the network, its purpose, and what drives a culture of participation and ownership, because it's quite widespread today. And I think there is a lot happening, or a lot happened in the journey as well.
Yeah. Okay, let me start first with the bigger objective and why we are doing that. Because we have Vodafone has a strategic objective, and it's crucial for companies to commit on to commit on diversity and inclusion agenda. So Vodafone has set a target to increase the number of women in leadership and reach to 40% of managerial positions filled by women in 2030. In Voice, we contribute to this Vodafone target by setting our own internal target and to have 35% of females in senior management positions by March 23. And actually, we are doing great progress, reaching to 34% of females already in managerial positions. Voice also has set its mission to be the partner of a choice when it comes to talents, technology, and transformation. And from the mission statement, you can easily identify that D&I agenda sits in the heart of Voice mission, because we cannot be the partner of a choice if we block innovation or not getting the best talents to contribute to our mission. So in order to deliver on this goal, we have Women in Voice Network. It's a network that actually moved from company-led network to employee-led network. And what's the employee-led network? It's a voluntary employee network that it contracts itself and sets its own agenda to make sure that the true voice of employees are really heard, and they are playing an integral role in driving the diversity and inclusion agenda, and also to contribute to the bigger role. So in Women in Voice Network, we value diversity, and we strive to create an inclusive environment where women can bring their whole self to work and realize their career potential and also live their aspirations. So how can we do that? We're doing that by inspiring our colleagues to promote gender equality in workplace, support and gain trust for our female colleagues, celebrate their success, empower females in their careers, and last but not least, providing networking, monitoring, and learning opportunities for them. As I mentioned before, it's an employee-led network. It means that it's highly relying on volunteers to come forward and contribute to setting up and shaping up the network agenda. And it was very important for us to identify different roles to ensure network continuity and sustainability. So in addition to my role as network chair lead that I'm really appreciating the opportunity to have, we have our network sponsor, which is Emma Derby, our LT member. And we have also local center leads. We have diversity and inclusion leads. We have specialist leads as well. And as I'm speaking today, we have more than 60 volunteers placed in different squads and programs driving Women in Voice agenda. And please, if you can show the slide so I can share with the audience the squads and what they are doing. Can we have the slide on the screen?
Yeah, I'm just going to request the team to put up the slide with the squads.
Yeah. So basically, because we received a big number of volunteers, and it was really very hard to manage this number, but we really appreciate their enthusiasm about how to be part of the change, how they want to do the change. So we structured our specialist leads into 4 key work streams. Can we move to the next slide, please? And we structure according to 4 key work streams. So we have a stream or a squad focusing on content and comms, and it's led by our volunteer, Diana. We have another squad led by Shira, and it's focusing on research and analytics. A third squad led by Raji and focusing on hosting and engagement. And a fourth squad that's focusing on building network maturity assessment led by Tazeen. Not only this, but also we are partnering with other women networks in the group. We have around 23 women networks across, and we placed our volunteers as well across the other women network squads to make sure that they are working on streaming up whatever in the other women network as programs where voice can benefit from it, and at the same time sharing the activities and the agenda that's coming from voice women network and stream it down to other women network also to create a greater impact.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Dina. I think it's very purposeful, the employee networks and how they have evolved, very consciously done. And what really strikes me is also the governance around it, right? The accountability frameworks that have emerged, even when employees have volunteered to be a part of it and are still accountable for certain roles and chapters within the employee networks. I think that's very
Yeah, and speaking about that as well, I would like to share with you that we want also to enable our volunteers to deliver on their passion and to be part of our women network. We made sure also to do proper communication with their managers to let them know that they are working with us as volunteers on this women network, be part of their personal development goals, and also to be part of their daily performance discussions and also performance review.
That's great, because I think managers also are creating the experience for them, and I think their involvement would only empower the women to participate more. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think from one employee network to another. So Ekosh, I'm going to come to you with a similar question as network chair of the LGBT plus network. And you're also someone who's new to the role. And if you could share with us how this journey has started, what have been the initial thoughts, and also perhaps foreseen challenges when you all began this journey. It will really help us understand the formation of employee networks and involvement of employees.
Sure. So yes, I'm pretty new to this role, actually only 1 month into this. And how the whole thing started, actually, it was looking at the announcement about Dina and her role and her committee, which made me thinking that, that's so great that we are having some networks for women, very active. And I know that Dina is actually the right person to drive it at Voice. And I was starting to think that even if Vodafone and Voice has always been very inclusive about LGBT topics and very, 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 supporting environment, but I felt in the last couple of years that on the Voice side probably didn't really have a proper owner who would be driving it and leading it and then helping to empower the people who would be then actually forming the backbone of this community. So I was thinking that this is something I would like to do and like to drive. So I was pinging our HR director, Emma, saying that, Emma, I see that probably there is no network chair for this at the moment. Is it correct? And then she said, yes. Why? Because I would like to volunteer. And you know, at Voice and at Vodafone, many things are happening in a way that people are just grabbing and running away with things. So this is how I landed in this position. And of course, I had some great colleagues like Abhijit and other people from HR side who were supporting me from the very beginning, because obviously, when you start such a thing, you need to first understand what's already there, what's happening, who are the people, do we have already any groups or networks in place? So after 1 month, what I can tell you what my challenges have been, or the challenges I'm seeing, is that one is, I think the fact that Voice is a very global organization. We are having a lot of centers in various countries across the globe, on different continents, right? And these are having all their different cultures, and also in particular having a very different levels of acceptance for the LGBT communities, both from legal perspective, but also from society perspective. So obviously, when we want to do something global, we need to also consider very, very heavily the local aspects and the local situations in each and every market that we are having. That's one thing, that our locations are very diverse, but in the same time, LGBT plus group is diverse in itself, right? So all the letters, and even the letters that are represented by the plus, are all containing stories and problems and situations that those groups are facing, which are all very, very different, which we need to somehow try to see, acknowledge, and accept, and try to address if possible. But also in the same time, the individuals are also are probably on different levels of acceptance, because we could have colleagues who are, you know, champions of very revolutionary spirits, who are, you know, on the pride marches fighting for their equal rights. But there could be people who are still in the closet, or cannot even accept for themselves that they are part of this community. Or there could be even just colleagues who are parents, and their children are probably going through this acceptance process. So it's a very wide, diverse community that we need to somehow form and try to see how we can keep them together and motivate them. The other challenge which I've been seeing, that I think since the pandemic or during the pandemic, the community work in general in Voice and Vodafone, and probably everywhere else in the world, a little bit reduced, right? Because people couldn't meet face to face. They couldn't do joint events that much. So probably we need to reorganize these groups of people from scratch. Also, of course, a lot of people probably left the company, new ones came in, and because of this pause in the last 2 years in terms of community work, these links and connections and networks naturally a little bit eroded, which we need to obviously revive a little bit. And then the other biggest challenge, which is going to be for me the next action and the most important thing to do, just like Dina was showing her key allies on the slide, I need to find the right people in each and every location with the right enthusiasm, who can drive things, because we are talking about employee-led networks. So it shouldn't be me defining what we should do, what we should focus on. It should be the employees, it should be the people. So that's the other challenge which I need to tackle to build up this community in each location to be able to drive the agendas. Now, that's obviously leading also to the early steps. So we need to start to re-engage the community. So we are going to actually have our big next kickoff event next week, which I'm looking forward to very much. After the first 1 hour when we sent out the invite, already 150 people accepted it, which was really amazing, because you know, this community is always a little bit hidden, and people might not accept things so easily, or might not join events like this so easily. but I was very amazed, and I'm going to do another check where we are. Maybe it's already much bigger number ever since. So that's going to be the first one, where we are going to talk about the fact that we want to kind of restart this whole thing or put another booster on the whole thing. And then, of course, as mentioned, the most important step afterwards would be to build the core kind of network of the people who will be driving agendas, very importantly locally, by then somehow pulling it together to be a global agenda as well. And then we will need to sit down and then try to figure out what we want to focus on, because there will be probably many low-hanging fruits that we can implement very quickly without any investment, without too much efforts. But also, you know, having had a few conversations already in the first month, I see that there are plenty of ideas, and we should also try to avoid that we are trying to shoot for everything. So we should be able to see and figure out what we should focus our energies on.
Thanks, Ekosh. So I see that you all are currently in the forming stage and prioritizing.
Yes.
You know, what actions would have impact short to mid-term, mid to long-term in a way. I think some of those actions you'll speak of a little later. But Abhijit, as an observer of, you know, these employee networks being enablers of change, and I see several activities around it. But what I also heard Ekosh say is that there are different geographies involved. And not only when we look at LGBT plus and allyship groups, but also culture in general, because there's always a need to have a consistent language of culture across geographies. What has been your observation at Voice, and how are some of the ways that you're bringing this together across geographies, whether it's an employee network like LGBT plus or other ways of reinforcing culture?
Sure. Thanks, Maithili, for that question. So I would start with the LGBTQ part. And, you know, at Voice, we believe that if we are not intentionally inclusive, we are accidentally exclusive, right? And we put a lot of emphasis on ensuring that we have inclusion without exception. There is no exception on inclusion. And when you would see inclusion as a very sensitive and a locally, influenced subject, the local realities will always influence inclusion. And when we talk about different geographies, we have to be very careful on how do we go about it. And that is something that has been, our forte on how we deal with sensitive topics on overall inclusion across all our geographies. So as Akash was saying, we do have a large set of allies, almost 1,500 plus allies across the all geographical centers that we have. And these are allies who help us ensure that we propagate the concepts related to LGBTQ. The topics create more awareness around it. And you know how it helped us? It helped us bring more people out of the closet. It created higher level of psychological safety in the organization, where people felt that now it is safe for me to come out of the closet. So that's just one example, specifically on the LGBTQ part. But when coming to the overall culture, I feel that the diversity of thoughts and actions, different time zones, cultural differences, and local realities are some of the challenges that any organization which is operating in different geographies faces, and so does Voice. However, it's our spirit that comes to our rescue here as well. Our spirit clearly defines the how of what we deliver. It's a strong binding force, which aligns us all to a common culture across all our centers. And challenges such as which I mentioned earlier, the diversity in thoughts, cultural differences, local realities, actually help us create curated communication campaigns, interventions, and initiatives which not only honor these differences but also use them to our advantage and align us to a global culture. And our spirit community is the key in the success of these interventions. Along with the leaders, our spirit champions are actually our eyes and ears on the ground, who help us steer our interventions in a way that we align. To sum it up, I think our common beliefs, strong alignment to them, our leadership commitment, local support, curated communication, interventions, and initiatives, and our spirit champions help us create a uniform culture, despite we being, operating out of 6-7 different physical centers.
I think for voice and for most of the teams, working globally with different cultures is basically a day-to-day thing. So, and it's been going on for years and decades by now. So I think we learned how to work with different cultures, and people who are working with different cultures are usually already more open and more sensitive around the differences that we are having in our societies. And therefore, I think what Abhijit was saying, even the allies network is huge, right? So people are sensitive. They know that we are all different. Either it's culture or whatever it is, right? And we learn to work with this, and we enjoy this. And I think we created a global culture, which is very positive.
Thanks, Ekosh. And I think what I hear is that there are so many catalysts that have intentionally been, developed, and there's a lot of conscious effort in building this culture. And also there is, I think, an inherent cultural intelligence that now exists amongst the communities at Voice, since the work has been happening in that direction as well. And I'm still very interested in, how employees are participating in employee networks, because while we see that as one of the enablers in change, there are a lot of struggles that we have on how to do it, right? And what happens, what is the reality of it? So I think, Dina, coming to you, is there a mechanism by which employee networks, when people are participating in it, can also go back to business, challenge, share feedback, voice their opinions, and therefore also drive change in a particular direction? I think that's my first part. And if that is happening, how are we also sustaining this culture of sharing, speaking up, and mutual feedback?
Yeah, actually, it is definitely a little bit complicated, because in Voice, for example, we are operating across different centers, 6 countries. So to get everyone agreeing on one thing is something very difficult to do. So what we need to do first as a step, we need to educate everybody and increase the awareness about what's diversity and inclusion mean. What does it entail? How they can support each other? What are the actions they need to do? And the Voice is really doing very good in raising awareness about that. We have 2 important trainings that we are rolling out to all levels in Voice. We have something called Challenge for a Change training module, and there is another training called Impactful Allyship. Personally, I learned a lot about that, because also it shows you the specific examples that you maybe culturally you think it's okay and it will not create a problem, but in reality it might be a sensitive topic from one aspect for a person, but it's not only encouraging the person who feels that there is something wrong to go and speak about it. It also empower the entire population if they see something to speak up about it. For example, if I am in a meeting and I find something that's not really matching with what we need to do to be more inclusive, and it's not about me, it's about another colleague on the table, I learned how to speak up and defend this person and try to diffuse this kind of unconscious bias at that moment. So first, we need to raise the awareness about what's diversity inclusion and what does it mean. We need to make sure that we have the proper training to do that. We need to walk the talk. We need to encourage the people, if they see anything around them, to go and speak up, and either they go to their direct managers and do it. This could be one tool. Another tool is talk to the local HR about it. If they cannot make it for any other reason, there is the role of the networks here. They can go and reach to any volunteer or even the network lead and discuss the issue. So this could be from the BAU activities into seeing a policy that's just shared with them and they don't agree with it, or they think it's not really inclusive enough. So a lot of things and a lot of mechanism that companies can put, and also Voice started to put that in place to make sure that we are more an inclusive environment. I heard one day in one of Voice summits, one of the speakers said something that's really very good, and actually was an eye-opener for me. The example that he shared, he said that companies are doing really very good when it comes to diversity and numbers, but do they do as good in inclusion? And he gave an example. He said diversity is like inviting everybody to come to a party. Inclusion is asking them to dance. So sometimes you are inviting the people to the party, but are you really asking them to dance, be part of what's happening? They are part of the decision, they give the input. So this is something that's very important to understand what's really mean about diversity and inclusion, and make it in the core BAU in our workplace.
Yeah, very true, Dina. I also believe that inclusion is a decision that we make every day, because diversity is just there, right? We're anyway diverse if you take a slice of the population. But the inclusion is a very conscious action that, we have to take or not take. So I completely with you on that. I'm completely with you. Ekosh, any response to that? What are your plans for any similar mechanisms where employees can, through the network, also drive change and sustain it?
Yeah, I think what absolutely agreeing with everything that Dina was saying. I think what when it comes to building the LGBT network, what I would like the participants and members and allies and everyone who will be taking part of that to understand that we are behind them, we are with them, and the executive committee of the company is exactly the same. And sometimes they are just not taking it naturally. Sometimes they don't think that it's really the case, or sometimes they think it's just corporate blah blah and so on. But talking with our top leadership, I feel that's not the case. So they need to learn that and understand that, and in the very same time, if they have any ideas, they should be very open to raise it. So, for example, I think 2 weeks ago roughly 2 weeks ago in Budapest, the Voice leadership team was having a visit. There was an all-hands session for the overall center there, and just before that, our CEO Gary Adey was having half an hour, actually it was an hour session in the end, with the local LGBT community members to show his commitment, and then also wanted to hear the thoughts around what's going on in Hungary at the moment and so on. And they were raising a lot of good things and a lot of good ideas. And then Gary was saying, yes, guys, yes, let's do it. I mean, there is nothing wrong about it. These are important things. Let's do all of them together. And the guys were a little bit surprised. Really? Yes, can we? Yes, of course. So they need to understand that we are behind them. The leadership is behind them, and they can kind of come up with the ideas. And we are happy to do anything, right? Again, employee-led networks.
Yeah, and truly embodying that and living it right from leadership to everyone involved. I have one last question, and I think I will also open it out to the audience after that. So if you all watching have any questions, please feel free to type it in the chat box. And based on the time we have, we'll pick up a few questions for the panel here. Also wanted to check, Ekosh, Dina, and also Abhijit, if you would like to come in on some of these practices that the employee networks, that you've planned for these employee-led networks, Dina, especially with the women network, since it's evolved over a period of time. Some key practices that you've planned for or that are already mobilized. And then, of course, coming to Ekosh, if you have planned any key practice. I heard an event that you have planned for re-engagement and connection, but anything beyond that, would love to hear that as well. So Dina, let's start with you.
Yeah, I would love to share the practices that we're doing with Women Network. If you can have the slides on the screen, because actually we started that with the volunteers on their own. We brainstormed on the ideas, what we need to do. A lot of women network, as I mentioned, in Vodafone, we have 23 women network, and how can we complement to each other? How can we create a greater impact? So the idea came from the volunteers, and they designed everything from scratch, from the concept till implementation, till connecting with the speakers. So we created a concept called Women Around the World, which is a virtual traveling across different geographies and different countries, inviting speakers, either from Vodafone or external speaker, to talk about their personal stories. Because what we found in common that, believe or not, maybe some of the audience will agree with me on that, women challenges more or less are the same. They don't differentiate between one country to another. Maybe the severity could go like high, mid, or low, but it's there. And it's kind of consistent across. So what we said that let's travel, let's connect all women together into one platform. Let's travel from one destination to another. We are not traveling to fetch for a specific story. We will go for a speaker who is willing to share a personal story that he thinks it's worth sharing with everybody. And why we're doing that, we believe that women around the world had a mission for share personal stories, so women can do self-discovery and self-exploration. They understand themselves, they lead themselves, then they can lead the business. So it is related to the business somehow, but they have to start by understanding themselves and know how can they lead the business. So this kind of women around the world virtual travel help the different audience also coming from different countries to look at the challenge from different perspective. We started with our journey with the USA with our speaker Oriana, who shared with us a story about overcoming self-imposed limitation, which is basically what we as women put as limitations, not to progress because we're handling multiple things. And she was there and she shared with us the struggles and the hurdles that she had and the best solution to handle with that. And I learned something from this session because she was speaking about putting a pocket of time so you can manage your career, because she wanted to work on a CV. The key takeaway for me now is if I want to run, and that was the first session, if I want to run a network, I might not be free to do everything. Let's dedicate small pockets of time. And this, I have 30 minutes with the volunteers every day, just either to connect, to chat for a check-in, or to build on some new ideas. Then the second session was moving to South Africa with our great speaker, Elena, who shared with us how to keep sanity in insane time. A very personal story, but it was really a very good one. And I'm sure that it left a great impact on a lot of people because of the challenges. And now she's really grew out of it, and we are all proud of her. Traveled to Germany with a very nice concept during the Christmas time. And she was sharing with us that confidence has no competition, which is basically some challenges within the women community. Sometimes there is a competition. So she was talking about the concept of sisterhood and how can women support each other. Then the big event was International Women Week, where all women networks came together to design for activity plan and agenda, and Voice participated with two sessions. One of them is inviting teens to speak about the Break the Bias, because that was the international theme. And also we invited external speaker from Turkey. She's a Microsoft director, to talk about her dream that she had since she was young, and how culture and norms stopped her at a certain point of time. But she found the connection between her dream and the work she's doing in the sales part, and because her dream to be on the stage, and she found that being a salesperson, she will be on the stage, and she excelled. And it was really a very good story to hold to your dreams. Moving to Italy, we traveled to Italy, and Luisa also is an external speaker. However, she used to be a dear colleague of Vodafone, and she consciously took a decision to find her purpose and quit and work with as a startup, helping other communities when it comes to knowledge. So she's connecting people who has the knowledge in a specific field to the other people in unprivileged areas. So she has a lot of interesting work in Cambodia, and she was sharing very inspiring story at that time. We traveled to UK to speak about Isabel, who found herself in how can she make peace with anxiety, and she shared with the woman her story and how did she overcome that, because definitely anxiety is one of the things that's stopping women from taking a lot of decisions. In addition to the virtual world traveling, we created another format called Masterclass, and this is basically based on survey that we did with our employees on workplace, asking them what else they want to do, and they were speaking about the career progression and if there is something that can help them. So we created the concept of Masterclass, which is basically getting experts in specific fields to share tips and techniques that you will not find it in books. They discover it by experience. So the first session with Naveed, he used to be with us in Vodafone as executive coach. And the session was navigating through your career. And he shared really a very good tips and techniques to all our female community. And a lot of males as well attended this session. We are planning on 17th of November into bringing also another expert, Dr. Noha, to speak about the power of positive ideas. And it's all about to make an impact and to drive yourself. And the theme is becoming your own cheerleader. You don't need the environment to help you. You don't need someone to help you. You can empower yourself and move ahead in your career. This is an example of the things that we drove. If we can go to the next slide. We also, as I mentioned, partnering with the Women Network across the Vodafone. And as I mentioned, we placed our volunteers across different squads. These are the programs that they are participating in, because there is no point to duplicate. We need to complement on what we have. So we have We Survive to support any woman who has a problem and they need to speak and talk to someone. We have We Mentor for mentorship portal to help them in career progression. We Meditate and blockers, female blockers to progression. And finally, We Network. So a lot of exciting things. I really, when I look at the slides, I say only 30 minutes a day made all of this, but definitely I wouldn't have done anything without the power of the volunteers. They came voluntarily to work on that because this is their passion.
And what a great repertory of work, Dina. It's so good to just absorb all the work that has gone into building this culture at Voice. Ekosh, over to you. But before I get to you, there's one also question from the audience, which I'm going to combine, which is about, are there any, it might already be part of your infrastructure, but is infrastructure a part of the change that you are looking at for the LGBT plus from via the LGBT plus group? It's about having, I believe, gender neutral facilities.
Yeah, so of course it's very early to talk about plans yet, because we want to do it together with the community members. So hopefully going to gather in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, the plans are kind of very high level, that I want to set up this well-working network with the right people everywhere. Then let's try to focus on the low-hanging fruits. So for example, things which can be implemented from basically immediately. And there could be some very impactful ones, right? So, for example, having LGBT-related diversity targets in recruitment, which at the moment, for example, we don't have, but also any visuals, communication, and so on, which is easy to put in place. I think something we would need to do. Also to have regular events to be able to keep up the momentum, of course. And then we need to do engagements on various levels, engagements within the company, engagement within the members of the group, engagements with the allies, super importantly. And then we would like to also engage externally, because what we have seen that, for example, at least I remember the times when I was working in Budapest for Voice years ago, before the pandemic, and there was a great collaboration between the multinational company LGBT networks of the city, obviously a lot of global companies. So they were jointly doing things, jointly preparing for Pride events, sharing joint events, ideas, best practices, and so on. So I think that would be very powerful to do in each and every location. Answering the question on the facility side, at the moment we don't have those. It's obviously something to be potentially added on our roadmap to think about how we could change it, but at the moment we don't have such gender neutral laboratories at the moment.
Sure. Abhijit, anything you'd like to add in terms of any additional practices that have enabled this culture?
Yeah. So there have been, as we spoke a lot about employee networks, these groups have been very, crucial, and we listen to them at various instances, and with their help, we go ahead and, inculcate policies for the different groups. For example, there are medical benefits extended to the LGBTQ group. There are other facilities which were created within the campuses. However, since the last 2.5 years of pandemic, where we were into complete work from home environment, we have added new facilities where, as Akash mentioned, the new gender neutral facilities would be included, because since there are new additions getting added to the office spaces. But a critical part has always been listening to the community, helping, taking their help to create policies, and not sitting outside and just imagining what would benefit the group. And it is true for every group, be it women's group, be it LGBTQ group, be it the other minority groups that are there in the organization. Every time it is the group, we talk to them, we listen to them, and with their help come up with something.
Thank you so much, Abhijit, and such enriching information today from all of you. There's one last question from the audience. Dina, for you is, how often are the Women in Voice sessions held?
If sessions means the events that we're doing, right, it's ranges between 1 month to 1.5 months maximum. And we're when we have the master class, we skip the woman around the world at that month, we replace it with master class, then we continue. So we're doing that with love. That's why we're making sure that it's consistent. We need to be there. We need to be connecting all the women all the time. So we have also a responsibility toward the other women in Vodafone.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing some of these insights with us. I think to summarize what I heard from all of you is, one, a very strong leadership intent, not only in thought and cognition, but also in role modeling, involvement, and participation of leaders. And then also looking at governance or structures, and how the structure itself, whether it's having a employee network chair, whether it's volunteers coming in, whether it's talking to their managers as a process. I think some of these finer day-to-day nuances have really strengthened the culture that you have created. So thank you so much. And thank you also so much for impacting the community in ways that I think the next generations will benefit from. Akash, Dina, and Abhijit, thank you so much for that. To close the session, We also have a quick, interesting round with action and then a feedback with the audience. But thank you so much for being with us again. Action, over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Metali. And also thank you so much. Like, that is a really wonderful session, of course, Dina. And also mostly to Dina, I really love the story about the inspirational story about the woman. That was really inspiring. And also, obviously, thank you so much. And before we begin, for our audience, there will be a link. I will be posting a link in the chat box so you can send the feedback for this session. And before we do that, there is an awesome, like, there will be a short but a rapid fire question for all our speakers. So let me just share, or will anyone be doing that one? Also, before I share that, so we were planning to do a 3 question for everyone, but I think this will be more better. For Dina, this will be the first question, the rapid fire question. What and who inspire you to make effort in diversity in the inclusion, to be an inclusion champion?
What inspired me actually is talking to the teens during the Women International Week, understand their struggles, because we are trying to change the culture in the workplace now. However, very soon, these teens will be our future workforce. Currently, they are they are exposed to different sets of bias, and they are social media is making huge impact on them. So what we wanted to do is bringing them in a webinar to speak about their experience during the International Women's Week for the Break the Bias, understand their needs and how they deal with it. And it was really inspirational. I was really impressed with their point of view and very happy that this is going to be the workforce for the future. I prepared the video. I wasn't sure where I want to place it, but if you can play the video, the audience will understand what I'm talking about inspirational generation when it comes to the future workplace. If we can have a video and share it with everyone, it will not take time. I don't want to leave without having this video.
Can anybody please help us with that one?
Yeah, make sure that you share sound. And actually, these teens are teens of friends and families in Vodafone. So they did everything on their own and voiced.
Imagine a world without gender bias.
A world free of bias, discrimination, and stereotypes.
A world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive.
A world where difference is valued and celebrated. Together we can forge women equality.
Collectively, we can all break the bias.
Individually, we're all responsible for our own thoughts and actions all day, every day.
We can break the bias in our communities.
We can break the bias in our workplaces.
We can break the bias in our schools, colleges, and universities.
Whether deliberate or unconscious, bias makes it difficult for women to move ahead.
Knowing that bias exists isn't enough. Action is needed to level the playing field.
Are you in?
Are you in?
Are you in?
Are you in?
Will you actively call out?
Will you actively call out?
You actively call out
Gender bias,
discrimination
And stereotyping.
Can you see it? Together, we can break the bias on International Women's Day.
on International Women's Day and beyond.
Thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful and inspirational video. And thank you so much, Dina. And next, let's go to Abhijit. So Abhijit, from 1 year from now, what do you think, what do you want to see in the diversity, in equity and inclusion in voice, or whether it be in the society?
So I'd like to start with voice. What I envision is much higher participation of employees in the DEI journey, individual ownership, and a much higher level of psychological safety for everybody in voice, so that they can be who they are authentically inside the organization.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And next, of course, to you. So, of course, if you have a superpower, and as an inclusion champion, what change or what will you do? What will be that superpower?
I think seeing this video, I think we have the superpower of the young generations. But what I would like to, what it would be, I think I would like to achieve that the LGBT and allies network should not talk anymore about equal legal rights or acceptance in society, rather just do fun stuff. But yeah, that's maybe a couple of more decades ahead.
Maybe that's in the work in progress too. So that is a wonderful superpower and also a unique one. And thank you so much again. Thank you so much for all these wonderful insights, all this wonderful knowledge that you have given to us and also the audience. And also on this closing session, we would like to thank Akos, Matali, Gina, Abhijit, all the session and all the participants that have joined this webinar. And for our Great Place to Work Institute India, we do research on employee DEI diversity. We focus on empowering, we focus on making a better culture, for all culture, better for people, better for work. That is one of the motto that we follow. So if you'd like to follow up with it, if you'd like to know more about it, you can book a session with us, you can contact us or do anything with us. We will be here, and we are here to support you in all the diversity, equity, and inclusion journey. And also, again, thank you so much, Akos. Thank you so much, Dina. Thank you so much, Abhijit, and hope for a better future of diversity, equity, and inclusion in voice.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so much.
everyone. Have a great evening.
You too.
And,
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.